As the Cleveland Browns kick off one of the most intriguing quarterback competitions in recent memory, the spotlight is inevitably finding its way to rookie Shedeur Sanders. A player once projected as a first-round talent by multiple analysts, Sanders entered the NFL with sky-high expectations and a massive following thanks to his dynamic college career and well-known lineage. But if fans thought that hype alone would propel him to the top of the depth chart in Cleveland, training camp is serving as a sobering reality check. According to The Athletic's Zach Jackson, Sanders currently finds himself firmly positioned as the Browns' fourth-string quarterback, behind veteran Joe Flacco, fourth-year pro Kenny Pickett, and fellow rookie Dillon Gabriel. He is, at least for now, considered a long-term developmental project by the organization. There is no internal urgency to push him toward a starting role, nor is there a hint that he's in serious contention to start Week 1 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Jackson wrote plainly that fans expecting a Sanders debut in early September should put such dreams to bed before August arrives. This isn't to say Sanders has underwhelmed from a talent standpoint. On the contrary, his physical tools and upside remain evident. But the NFL isn't college. And for a fifth-round pick joining a team with immediate quarterback needs, the pathway to becoming QB1 isn't just about talent, it's about readiness, processing speed, understanding of the system, and the ability to operate within Kevin Stefanski's structure-heavy offense. Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com echoed a similar sentiment on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast, emphasizing that neither Sanders nor Gabriel is realistically expected to leapfrog Flacco or Pickett in the preseason depth chart, unless injuries or unexpected regressions occur. This view is reinforced by the Browns' decision to stack their quarterback room so heavily this offseason. After Watson's injury, they didn't just sign a veteran or draft a single rookie, they added 4 viable options, creating what has become a full-blown competition, but one where hierarchy matters and development takes time. Adding further complexity to the equation, ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that Kenny Pickett suffered a hamstring injury during practice this past Saturday. While the team is still evaluating the severity, early indications suggest a grade 1 strain that could sideline him for up to 3 weeks. This creates a window of opportunity for Flacco to cement himself as the starter and potentially for the rookies to gain more reps. But Jackson still believes Flacco as the overwhelming favorite, projecting a 75% chance that the veteran starts Week 1. Flacco, after all, isn't just another quarterback on the roster. He's the only one who's previously operated under Stefanski's system, and he's already proven capable of leading this team under pressure, guiding the Browns to a playoff berth during the 2023 campaign. With Pickett sidelined, his experience becomes even more critical. Meanwhile, Gabriel, drafted higher than Sanders and praised for his processing skills, has already earned additional reps in early practices. What this all means for Shedeur Sanders is that patience will be required, both from the coaching staff and the fan base. Despite being a headline name and a potential star down the road, Sanders is not being fast-tracked. Cleveland views him as a developmental piece, someone to groom over time rather than a savior to be rushed into action. For Sanders, the early days of training camp have been about learning, adapting, and understanding the massive leap from college to the NFL. The Browns are giving him the space to grow, and that might end up being the smartest move of all.
With Kenny Pickett temporarily sidelined due to a hamstring injury and training camp entering full swing, the dynamics of the Browns' quarterback room are shifting daily. But even as injuries offer new reps and rotations, the organization remains steadfast in its approach to Shedeur Sanders. Development, not deployment. For all the noise surrounding the rookie, the Browns coaching staff has made it clear through their actions and internal messaging that Sanders is not a short-term solution. He's a long-term project, and the team intends to treat him as such. Pickett's hamstring setback, first reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter, appears to be a mild grade 1 strain, which usually carries a recovery window of 2 to 3 weeks. That's not insignificant during camp, especially with Cleveland facing tough preseason opponents and trying to finalize a quarterback hierarchy by early September. However, it's also not severe enough to completely eliminate Pickett from the competition. Veteran Joe Flacco has already stepped into a leading role in Pickett's absence, and reports suggest that his command of Kevin Stefanski's offense has only grown stronger as practices continue. Zach Jackson of The Athletic now pegs Flacco as the frontrunner, estimating a 75% chance he's named the Week 1 starter. This is crucial context for understanding where Shedeur Sanders fits into the bigger picture. Unlike Gabriel, who was taken 50 picks earlier in the draft and has already drawn praise for his processing speed and decisiveness, Sanders is not being rushed. This isn't a knock on his potential. Rather, it's a reflection of how NFL-ready talent is measured differently than college stardom. Gabriel is further along in understanding the reads and protections required to operate Stefanski's system. Meanwhile, Sanders is still learning the vocabulary, the timing, and the reads that must become second nature at the pro level. And then there's the Flacco effect. Joe Flacco may be in the twilight of his career, but his performance in 2023, where he won 4 of 5 starts and led the Browns to the playoffs, gave this franchise a confidence in him that few expected. He's the only quarterback on the roster who has played real NFL snaps in Stefanski's offense. That alone gives him a head start, and his calm veteran presence is clearly valued by a coaching staff trying to keep the locker room stable in Watson's absence. Injuries like Pickett's create openings in theory, but in practice, the Browns are not looking for short-term panic buttons. They are instead operating with a clear strategy: build a stable bridge to the future, not a desperate leap. That means Flacco remains the most logical choice to start Week 1, with Gabriel continuing to rise as the most likely long-term option in waiting, and Sanders remaining in developmental mode where he can absorb without pressure. It's also worth noting that Sanders' draft slide from potential first-rounder to fifth-round pick wasn't about talent. It had more to do with his approach to the pre-draft process and how that impacted evaluations. Some scouts were turned off by perceived immaturity or a lack of polish in his meetings, while others questioned his ability to read complex defenses. Still, the Browns took a chance on his upside, believing that with time and the right structure, Sanders could become a difference-maker down the line. But the emphasis here is with time. So even as Pickett recovers, and even as preseason games begin to unfold, the story remains the same. The Browns are not building around Shedeur Sanders in 2025. They're investing in him as a future option, a player to mold, not rely on immediately. His future is not tied to Week 1. It's tied to how well he grows through film study, scout team reps, and gradual acclimation to the speed and complexity of the pro game. This kind of strategic patience may frustrate fans who want to see Sanders on the field right away. But for a team like Cleveland, which has spent years cycling through quarterbacks and rushing development before players were ready, this is a welcome change. It's a sign of a franchise finally playing the long game. And for Sanders, it might be exactly what he needs to succeed in the NFL when his moment eventually arrives. As Cleveland Browns fans process the early days of training camp and the buzz surrounding rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders, it's becoming clear that the organization is taking a long-term approach rarely seen in today's NFL. Rather than pushing the fifth-round pick into a premature competition for the starting job, the Browns are choosing a path of patience, development, and strategic growth. And in doing so, they may be laying the foundation for something far greater than a single-season success. They may be building the quarterback stability that has long eluded this franchise. Sanders enters the NFL with undeniable upside. His arm talent, athleticism, and playmaking instincts made him one of the most polarizing names leading up to the 2025 draft. He flashed brilliance at Colorado, demonstrating the ability to extend plays, throw on the move, and energize a locker room. But scouts and front offices also saw areas for improvement, namely his footwork, defensive recognition, and decision-making under pressure. That's why he fell to pick number 144, and that's also why the Browns' approach to his development is so refreshing. By resisting the urge to fast-track Sanders into a high-pressure role, Cleveland is acknowledging that quarterback success in the NFL is more about timing and preparation than raw ability. They're choosing to build confidence through structure instead of chaos, and that's a stark contrast to the past. For years, the Browns cycled through quarterbacks, throwing young passers into the fire before they were ready, often burning out talent and setting back the franchise. This time, it's different.
Head coach Kevin Stefanski and GM Andrew Berry appear aligned in their vision. They want stability. They want to build a roster and a system where quarterbacks don't need to be heroes, they need to be smart, decisive, and efficient. Joe Flacco gives them that in the short term. Gabriel gives them a developmental riser who's already impressing with his processing skills. And Shedeur Sanders gives them a potential franchise quarterback waiting in the wings, one who, with the proper timeline, could evolve into a dynamic dual-threat presence capable of leading the team for years. Sanders' current place on the depth chart, QB4, isn't a slight. It's part of a calculated blueprint. As Zach Jackson reported, there's no urgency from the Browns' leadership to elevate Sanders before he's ready. That doesn't mean they don't believe in him, it means they believe enough to do this the right way. That's a critical distinction. You don't hide a player you don't think can succeed. You protect and develop the ones you believe can eventually change your franchise. If Cleveland's plan succeeds, they could emerge from the 2025 season with more clarity than they've had in years. Whether Flacco bridges the year with competence, whether Gabriel develops into a legitimate contender, or whether Sanders grows into the franchise face over time, each path leads to one common theme: stability. That's the word Browns fans have been waiting decades to hear in connection with the quarterback position. The challenge now is to stay the course. Injuries, preseason overreactions, and media pressure can all derail a developmental plan. But if the Browns remain committed to their approach, letting Sanders learn, master the system, and grow in confidence, they could eventually have a quarterback who isn't just ready to play, but ready to win. So, what do you think, Dawg Pound? Is the Browns' long-game approach with Shedeur Sanders the right move? Should they consider giving him more reps, or is keeping him on a slow development path the best strategy for the future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're enjoying these deep dives into Cleveland's quarterback saga, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you don't miss a single update as training camp heats up. The journey is just beginning, and we're breaking it down every step of the way.